Hi, I'm Zadi Diaz, and we're here at the PBS Press Tour for Fall 2009 with Ken Burns, who is the producer-director of a new documentary called The National Parks, America's Best Idea. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is and what the story is?
Well, on September 27th, PBS is going to begin broadcasting our 6-part, 12-hour history of the national parks. I say history because it's not a travelogue. It's just not just a nature film. It's the story of the very interesting people who invented this uniquely American thing. That is to say that for the first time in history, land was set aside not for rich people or for kings, but for everybody and for all time. That means that every single one of us are co-owners of some of the most spectacular scenery on Earth, the best oceanfront views, the highest mountains, the longest free-falling waterfall, the grandest canyon on Earth. They're all ours. And it's a wonderful story of America in the national parks.
How would an individual person kind of relate to a story like this? How does it relate on a personal level?
Well, I think that's a wonderful question. We tend to think of history as being something that comes from the top down. It's the story of presidents and big ideas and events that seem far away from us. But what we begin to realize when we study history seriously is that the real interesting history is the one that bubbles up from individual experiences. And the story of the national parks is a story of people from every walk of life, from every background, who fell in love with a particular place and decided to save it for people they never met, meaning us. If we had not set aside Yellowstone National Park, there would be no more bison, no more buffalo in the United States. You could go to a museum and see a stuffed animal. But we saved this place, this beautiful place with the greatest collection of geysers on Earth, and we also, as a result, saved the bison from extinction. This is a wonderful story, and the story of the people who discovered the places, who set about to fight the battles to keep them from being, the rivers from being dammed and the trees from being cut down and the canyons from being mined, is a dramatic and wonderful story that just happens as a filmmaker to be set against the backdrop of some of the most spectacular places on Earth, our national parks.
So this comes at a pretty seminal moment in our history. There are a lot of national parks being shut down or that are shut down. Did that influence you in kind of creating or thinking about telling this story?
Well, we are in a huge crisis, and that's not dissimilar to the one during the Great Depression. And strangely enough, during the Great Depression, the national parks thrived as never before. They got the first stimulus money of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal, and people got jobs helping to build the trails and some of the rest areas. And more importantly, Americans came together and realized how absolutely critical the national parks were to a sense of cohesion, to the sense of what it meant to be American. When we sing "My Country 'Tis of Thee," the country we're talking about isn't cities, it isn't about trade statistics, it's about the land that we share and own in common. And so the parks became a place where Americans could really rekindle a sense of patriotism and sense of belonging. Now, no national parks have been shut down in the current economic crisis. It's affected at a municipal and a county and a state level, and this is terrible news. The national park system is still going, but we are at a critical juncture because so many of us, the momentum of our lives have distracted us. The TV that we watch, the video games that we play, the Facebook and the internet stuff that we do, the virtual world we live in has permitted some of us to not enjoy the blessings of being out in the national parks. Many of us have memories of our families piling in the station wagon or the minivan and going to the national parks and not just seeing the great wonders of the world, not just having a chance encounter and seeing a bear or mountain goats or seeing, a grizzly catch a fish, salmon, right out of the river with its mouth. But we had wonderful times with our families and with ourselves. And so for many of us, the message of the national parks is that you can discover who you are in the deepest and most personal way by going into the national parks. And so what we hope the series does is remind people, first of all, how beautiful these places are, how incredibly interesting the story is of how they got created, and what you yourselves can do with your family to go and see these places and have vacations you will never forget and experiences with the people you love the most that you will never forget.
Well, you said something really interesting, and it kind of segues into the next question, which is about social media and networking and being online. Do you feel that in the work that you do, that you will kind of integrate social media in any way into the fabric of your projects?
In the future, it's going to be impossible to do anything without having that responsibility of initiating a dialogue with your audience, allowing your audience to talk back to you and you talk to them. That's the essence of social networking. At the same time, there is nothing that replaces a campfire conversation you can have with your family out or with your friends out camping in the national park. That realness is irreplaceable, and that's what we're trying to say. It's not one thing's bad and the other thing's good. It's that in order to have a full and rich life, you have to be able to do both. You have to be able to set aside some of those virtual things to have real experiences. That just enriches your virtual world. But as filmmakers trying to tell the story and get the message out, we of course have to use every tool at our disposal. And so there's Facebook connected with the National Parks projects. There's a website that will be interactive in every sense of the word. There's ways in which teachers can come and find lessons plans for their kids. Their students can come and do the research necessary to do those reports. There's tours and things that families can do together in addition to our series. And we've also been so thrilled by the fact that the story of the national parks isn't just a story of sort of great white men bestowing this gift on everyone else, that this is the story of black people, of brown people, of red people, of yellow people, of women who fell in love with these places. And so we can go into neighborhoods all around the country, inner city neighborhoods, and show kids in schools and people in the community heroes of the national park that look and sound like them. And that story's never been told before. And this isn't some politically correct thing that we did. This is the truth. This is the story of George Melendez-Wright, the first biologist of the National Park Service. This is the story of Lancelot Jones, the son of a slave who helped save Biscayne Bay, right outside crowded Miami. This is the story of the African-American buffalo soldiers who were the park's first protectors out in Yosemite and Sequoia National Park. This is a story that looks and sounds like America. And that's something that all of these new media help us communicate to the rest of the world. And so we can reach into pockets of the country. We can reach into different diverse communities and share the good news about the national parks that is theirs. That when you go into an inner city in Florida, in Miami, and talk to some kids and say, you own that waterfall. I mean, there's nothing in South Florida that's more than 3 or 4 feet high that's natural. But you own that waterfall. You own the tallest mountain on this continent. You own this beautiful canyon, the grandest canyon on earth. You own Old Faithful. Boy, you should see the look in their eyes.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us talking about it. And if you guys want to learn more about the national parks, you can go to pbs.org, pbs.org/the national parks, or at Twitter, which is twitter.com, PBS National Park. Thank you.
Thank you.